and welcome to the Pathifist podcast. My name is Andi Bunny, Wendigo Bunny on Twitter and Tumblr, and I am here with my co-host today, Doc Nickie. Hi, Nikki. How are you doing today?
Hi, good. Yeah, so I'm Doc Nickie on Twitter and Tumblr as well.
And we're here to discuss episode 8 of The Path on Hulu, The Shore. Last week we had an action-packed episode that was just a real nail biter. This one was, to me, the therapy session after the action-packed episode we had last week. It was the very, very painful, difficult therapy session in my mind, where we had to kind of deal with all the issues that came up after that. Was that kind of the feeling you had too?
Yeah, like the fallout. I mean, obviously
Yeah,
that's sort of like that met like sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a crescendo in the
yeah.
plot because we only have a couple episodes left. So now this is sort of like the denouement, right? So,
Yes, very
yeah,
very well
exactly.
put. Exactly. Yeah, it was pretty very very intense and for me very emotional and difficult to watch. I think it was probably that way for a lot of folks. I think one of the more intense arcs through this episode was dealt with Sarah and dealt with a lot of mother themes, which was why I think it was tough to watch for me. But we there was a very interesting scene, one of the very first scenes in this episode, where she's having a dream. It's kind of a very it's a very typical mother dream, but it's of course flavored with Sarah's issues. She's in the middle of a freeway and just walking through. It's a beautiful day, and she sees Hawk walking down the freeway in the middle of the road with his headphones on, and there's a truck coming up behind him, just barreling towards him. And
The truck is Ashley.
yeah, the truck is Ashley. That's great. And so the truck is barreling towards him, and she's running at him, screaming "Hawk, Hawk!" because she can't get to him. And then Hawk turns into Summer, her little girl, and she just gets just frantic, and of course she's running and she can't approach them. It's like a mirage. And then she finally, she falls to the ground and looks down, or she looks down. I don't know if she falls to the ground. And she sees this naked woman on the ground that's all painted, and she has like snakes for hair. What did she have, snakes for hair?
Oh yeah, and
It
that's
was like
another
Medusa,
thing.
but it was the Pachamama.
Yeah, which is really cool because that means that there's some kind of confluence in the collective unconscious about
Hmm.
women with hair snakes because obviously those two mythologies never met one another.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Not that they're all the same people with different names or anything. Cough, cough.
Right.
So, which I'm going to talk about Pachamama at length in a bit. But for me, the first thing that I thought of, my interpretation, which I could be completely wrong, was I think Sarah has issues with control, where she really wants to be in control of her family, and that's not necessarily a bad thing or anything like that. She wants a lot of, she wants to be able to protect and control her family, especially her children, but she has no control. Ultimately, chaos and fate are in control, and it's a representation of her worst fears and insecurities. I think at its most basic level, that's kind of what that meant. But I'm very eager to hear what you have to say about that. What did you
Um,
think?
yeah, I mean all the sort of forces that are I mean the Meyerists in general are kind of confronted with they're trying to stop or they're trying to contend with forces that are difficult like the whole concept of the future, right? So their
Right.
way of dealing with uncertainty is to have this backup plan in some way where they're going to all go to the garden, whatever that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like her life is sort of mired in that already.
Right.
And then when you overlay the family drama, especially with with her son and husband, I'm kind of surprised her
Right.
husband didn't make any kind of appearance in that
Mm-hmm.
dream too, because obviously I think there's a lot of uncertainty going on there
Mm-hmm.
too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in the sense that it's all about the mother fear stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're totally
And
right
she
about
grew up
that.
in this movement that she grew up in the movement. I think this is why she has a lot of the control issues she has, is because she grew up in this movement where everything is about transparency, about truth, living, in the light, never hiding anything, unburdening. So to
Yeah.
her, I think that's where a lot of her boundary issues with people come from. There are no boundaries. There is no personal space. There is no, I mean, everything is out in the open. So it's not considered, I think, to her a violation of someone's privacy to be like every 5 minutes, where were you? What were you doing?
Yeah, that's a good point because then, like we saw earlier in the earlier episodes where everybody at the table is quizzing Hawk about every little
Yeah,
aspect of his
which
life,
is
right?
to
And they think
us
it's
like,
totally fine to
Jesus
do that.
Christ, people, calm the fuck down. Like,
They think
really?
it's totally acceptable to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And when
Yeah.
he comes back from the park at, 6 in the morning and his entire family is there waiting for him, we're all
That's
just like, wow. But to them, that's
yeah,
normal to have like a
yeah,
nine-person intervention at the crack of dawn, right? Whereas a
exactly.
more appropriate response to that parentally might have just been to have mom and dad talk to him, right?
Yes, exactly.
But that's
Yeah, so
the,
you're right. You're right. I mean, they're so used to everybody being in everybody else's business and that being totally normal and acceptable. So when people start hiding things, it probably seems very frightening and represents total instability and chaos to her.
so in Sarah's world, just to be in Sarah's defense and to be in the interest of fairness, that's, I think, why this is her biggest fear, is loss of control, is losing Hawk, like they lost, her sister Tess. And I think that's what that dream was about. And I've always, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought that Medusa and that, I felt like that really did represent chaos, and the fact that she really doesn't have control over the situation of what's going on. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
definitely.
So, then later, we see, which I had to laugh. Felicia's like, "Oh, I would love to have a word with you later." After she drives into the compound, and everyone is like, "Sarah, Sarah, yay, you won!" And Felicia's like, "Yeah, I want a word with you." I'm like, I bet you want a word with her. Felicia.
Yeah, 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 because they were so against, everything, and yeah, it didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, or the way that they thought it would. And then it's weird that the feds just kind of up and left,
Hmm.
like that seems,
Well, the reason they up
um,
and left, as we later see, I think, is because the Homeland Security is now taking over. But
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just usually those things don't end quite so
which is
calmly.
weird to me. I mean, that here's another question: why is Homeland Security taking over now? Which I don't.
Um, Maybe because it's immigration issues. That would be I don't know.
Oh,
That's a good question actually because there may be something about
oh,
their activities in Peru perhaps that are now known that have gotten out that Homeland Security has found out about or something.
when Eddie and Hawk start their walk, they start at the army facility where Steve started his walk, right?
Oh yeah,
And
but
They
yes.
said, and Eddie's telling Hawk, Steve did top secret psychological warfare in the army when he left, and he just walked off the army base, went AWOL, and just started walking. And that's one of the key points in the book, The Ladder, is like he realized when he was doing these experiments on these soldiers that everything was a lie,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
Do the experiments that he had been doing with the army that were top secret, A, have anything to do with the cancer that he now has? B, do they have anything to do with the visions that he had of the ladder? C, do they have anything to do with what he was doing in Peru? And why is Homeland Security now involved?
Well, I can tell you for an almost 100% certainty that the experiments that he was doing had to do with psychedelic drugs.
Yes.
So obviously he's continued those experiments in a different
Yes.
form.
Right.
So for the other stuff, I don't know, but yeah,
So I started on that little train of thought and wondered what maybe this is why
Yeah, maybe they finally put two and
maybe
two
they're yeah,
together.
maybe they're making connections now and they're like, wait a minute. Yeah.
That's that guy. We really need to like follow up on what he's doing
Yeah.
and his followers, you know. Because a lot of those programs that they were
If it was
carrying out,
top secret and they lost track of him,
yeah, a,
I would think they would want to get back in touch with him.
yes, and a lot of those programs were discontinued and were buried because essentially it was, you know, things that they could have that the military could have gotten
Yep.
in serious trouble for,
Well,
you know, like sued, you
oh
know,
yeah.
years down the line and things like that. So it was covered up
Because
basically.
they did, I know that they did for a fact, I know they did testing with things like marijuana and LSD.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they, yeah, something like ayahuasca would have definitely been on the list of things that they would have used.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but I know this is a project MK Ultra that we're talking about here,
Hmm.
and I know a lot about that. So,
It gets the head ticking, and this could be season two material.
yep,
This is
exactly.
rich.
Yes, definitely.
Um, it really, really makes me wonder what was going on and what he was doing to them and what's written in the latter. And yeah, when I was rewatching and I saw that scene and was listening to what Eddie was telling Hawk about that, I'm like, what? All right, so I did a little research on the Pachamama. The Pachamama is an Andes mother goddess. The Inca Indians worshipped her. She's kind of along the lines of like Gaia, Ishtar. Sarah finds this idol in her office when Felicia is talking to her, and she immediately asks if it's Silas's, because Silas apparently makes these little dolls, these idols. Um, the other thing about Pachamama is that she's worshipped over there, and she also represented the Virgin Mary, and as is common, I think, in crossovers between pagan and Catholic cultures, a lot of the same saints represent some of the goddesses and the gods. I think a lot of people know that. In pre-Hispanic culture, she's actually considered to be a cruel goddess that collects sacrifices. Um, Problems arise when people take too much from nature. They would sacrifice guinea pigs and llama fetuses to her. Um, I also made a note that her Inca emperors were direct descendants of the sun god. They used to conduct human sacrifices to him in Cusco, because that's where the worship of Pachamama and her husband Inti, the sun god, originated. So I had kind of an interesting thought along those lines. I wondered, I speculated, if Silas is making these idols, Silas is worshiping Pachamama and Inti. I just was curious. I wonder if he, I wonder if Jason was a sacrifice to Pachamama. I wonder if Cal was intended to be a sacrifice as well. And I wonder if the doll was placed in Sarah's office not necessarily as it could have had two reasons. It could have been meant it could have been, let's just play devil's advocate in my mind because I hate Silas, but maybe it was just meant to be a good omen to her, to be like, listen, you know, the mantle is meant to be passed to you. This is a good omen to you. Or it also could have been Cal is out of the picture. I have gotten rid of him, and you are the new leader. So these were things that I was speculating about the meaning behind that. But Cal's reaction later in the episode when he sees it is very telling to me because I think Cal knows exactly what it is on a deeper level. Cal clearly has very deep subconscious issues, mother issues, and so the fact that it resonates with him on a level that maybe he doesn't completely connect with right away, I think is very telling. And I think that on some level, he knows exactly where it comes from and what it is. Not
So,
immediately in the forefront of his mind, but I think he senses it. I think he's reacting intuitively. But these are just my head theories.
yeah, I'm kind of wondering how did it got in her office by Silas putting it there?
Yeah, I think
Is okay.
he stopped there on the way to see Cal. Yeah.
But then no one else saw Silas.
Well, they were all in the hall for the
Oh,
meeting.
right, exactly. So I interpreted that scene as him being worried that other people might have known that Silas was there instead of say like he mailed it there or something like that. Like, oh, this how did this get here?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I
Hmm.
love all the symbolism stuff like that you're talking about in terms of him being concerned
Oh.
about what it actually means. But what I interpreted it as, oh crap, now they know Silas was here, or at least they, or
Hmm.
possibly could, because there's evidence of him either being here or sending something, and
Yeah,
nobody,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
and
a good
he's the
idea.
only
I
one
never
that,
thought of that, but
yeah,
you're
he's
right.
the only one that saw. If he's the only one that saw him, you know, they're gonna once Silas is confirmed to have gone mysteriously missing from wherever he was.
Let's
Um,
go. Yeah.
they're gonna be like, the last thing we saw of him was this weird idol that just
Showed up in Sarah's office.
mysteriously, you know, showed up in Sarah's office. Does that mean he was there? And if he was there, why did no one see him? And
Right.
where is he now? That's kind of on a practical
That's a really
level.
good point. I think you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that may
yeah,
have been what he was. You're right. You're right.
yeah.
That's a good point. I think that's probably what he was reacting to now that you mention it. You're right.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I
Oh
mean, I think that
crap.
he could see it as being like the whole package is just bad in his mind. You know what I
Well,
mean?
of course. Yeah.
The
But
whole thing.
I found it funny that Sarah was more fixated on the meaning of it rather than how the hell did it get in my office.
Right. That's also true. Like that she didn't seem like
She didn't
very.
seem like taken aback at all. Like, how the hell did this get here?
Yeah. My
I think
with
she
my
assumed
logic.
it must have been mailed.
Yeah, the logical thing would be like, oh, was Silas here? Did he drop this off? How did this get here? You know, why did he mail this to
She
me? If he,
probably figured, well, if he had been here, he would be here. If he had brought it, he would be here
right.
somewhere,
Exactly.
which is what any normal person would think. But yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Along the lines of symbolism, we had the white owl. When Cal is, Cal is, of course, well, we started out, he's still completely drunk and in the middle of the night, sneaking out to grab one of the Priuses and throw his little Silas burrito over his shoulder and try to shove it in the back of the
Yeah.
Prius, and he can't quite get the door closed, and the blanket's coming off his face.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Um, and then he's burying the body in that hole, and we see the white owl. What did the white owl mean to you?
Well,
Because I have
in
some
Roman
ideas.
mythology, owls are harbingers of death.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so they're called bubo in Latin, and of
Mm.
course that's where we get bubonic plague from,
Yep. Yeah.
because the signs that the buboes that would emerge on your skin were harbingers of death.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, the owls are not what they seem, as
Yes. Nice quote.
as other
Woohoo! Twins.
shows would have us believe. So yeah, I mean,
They're they're also, yeah, they're messengers of the underworld across many different mythologies. They're also sometimes thought of as like messengers of things to come that can see past deceit and illusion, that can see true motives.
as the
So
owl's like, I know what you did. I'm gonna
well,
tell everybody.
yeah. Actually, I kind of saw it different, and this might be because I'm so pro Cal, and I don't know, but I thought this might be a supernatural element, but I thought the white owl was Steve, was like
Okay.
a Steve astral projecting into the situation and telling Cal, people are trying to deceive you, including Silas.
Hmm.
Silas was lying to you. You need to see past the people that are lying to you and deceiving you and see the truth of this situation.
Yeah.
And be
Silas was
careful.
totally lying to him.
Yeah, yeah. So my first initial thought of the White Owl was that the White Owl was Steve, um, trying to spiritually communicate to Cal. Um, I don't know that Cal necessarily received the message that way, though, because of how drunk and out of it he was. And then when he was driving down the road after he buried him and looking in his back seat, I kept feeling like he was sensing the owl in the back seat. No, they didn't actually show that, but that was what I was thinking he was seeing. But that was, yeah, that was what I was imagining. He
Yeah,
might
more
have been seeing.
generally that he watched or something, you know. So
Huh?
more generally that he's being watched or he feels like he's being watched.
Well,
Not
yeah,
not in actuality, but that he feels like he's
yeah,
being watched. So an owl coming and watching him is not gonna help his state of mind.
right, right. I really loved it when he was driving out of the compound and Mr. Cox is banging on his window and he's just like, "How much are you gonna pay me for my daughter?" And Cal
Yeah.
is like, "Yeah, next time I'm gonna finish the job."
And he is not fucking kidding
Mm-mm.
because he knows himself that he would damn well finish the job. Yes,
I
that he
was, I
knows
was,
of
I
it.
was
He
just like,
knows he's capable of it now. So
at
yeah,
this point, yeah, no fucks left to give. There's a song that they play. I'm just gonna interject to this before we talk about Cal washing himself off in the bathroom. That I thought was super pretty. That it was called "About Today" by the National. That I really enjoyed. And they're playing that while Cal is in the like the truck stop restroom washing himself off. Which, God, I wish when I was driving across the country I'd come upon that when I went into one of the truck stops.
yeah. I really have to say this
Shallow
show.
comment of the show moment.
They know what we want to see because he's pretty much been in some form of undress like at least half of the episodes.
Mm, mm.
And not anybody else, just him. Like other people have been occasionally, but him regularly.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's they know.
they know what we want
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I was just like, that was a very necessary scene, and Jesus. And then it cracked me up. He goes into the Milton office, and all these poor kids are in there. They're just like, "Oh shit, sir!
Yeah.
Oh God, we had no idea you were gonna. Oh, this
The one
this
hides
Dr.
his
Pepper
soda.
isn't mine. I'm holding for a friend."
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just loved their reactions. They were just so like freaked out that he was there, and he's just like, meanwhile, if they only knew, like, he doesn't really care about a can of Dr. Pepper.
Right.
So, which I didn't know they couldn't drink pop. Did you?
No, I mean they're seem to have various um loose guidelines about like pollution of the body, I guess you could
Yeah,
say, and I don't think soda would be
which
something that
makes
they
sense.
would.
Refined sugar would be obviously
Yeah.
pollution. So,
Yeah, I mean they eat so much like fruits and vegetables and whole grain bread things,
yeah,
you would think that a soda
that's
would
true.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he's like, I need you to come with. I need Sean. I need you to come with me. And we were trying to theorize. I had tons of theories based just on the sneak peek last week as to what he wanted Sean for, and as the simplest explanation was the best, was the one,
Yeah. Right,
which
right.
is just bring Sean back to for Mary because poor Mary's a mess, which is beautiful, but then also what's gonna happen to poor Betsy?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Jeez.
I, I was, when Sean encountered Mary, and then later they're doing their energy exchange thing, and she goes into the bathroom. Oh, I was just like, Mary, please flush them, do it, flush them, because it looked like she was gonna flush them, and
Yeah. Those are fentanyl patches, right?
I thought it was the buprenorphine.
What's that? I don't know what that
That's
is.
the stuff that they use to get people. That's what they gave her in the beginning of in like episode one. Cause that's what they administer to get people that are addicted to narcotic painkillers.
Oh, so it's kind of like methadone.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And
That
it,
makes
it gives
sense.
you a high, but it's a mild high. It's not super potent.
Okay. That makes sense. I thought it was like something worse than that, but okay. Yes, that makes perfect sense.
That's what I theorized they gave her, because that's what the only reason I'm thinking that that's still what she's taking is because the nurse or the doctor in the first episode, the lady with the headscarf, that's what she told her she was going to give her when she first got there, and she was had the shakes.
Yeah, I don't I'm not sure. Like I think that's a really good possibility, but I was when she went to get it from Betsy for the first time, she was talking about being in pain, right?
Yeah.
So that led me to believe it was like a narcotic of some kind.
Oh.
I don't
Okay.
you could you I'm really
But
50-50 on
knowing
that.
that she was an addict, I seriously doubt
Yeah.
that Richard would give her that.
Well, she said
Because she
that he
said,
gave.
"Oh, save me the bother of having to make an appointment with Richard to get
Yeah,
it."
but that doesn't mean that he was giving her that. She
Okay.
was possibly lying about that. I don't know. But I mean, that's a good I think your theory is good.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my first thing was like,
The
is that really
reason I
that?
thought that that might be what it was is because they might not have anything. I don't know that they I'm not sure if they have anything stronger than that there. I mean, they probably do, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't
And
know.
B, if she had nothing else there to get high off of, it would be a low grade high. But if she hasn't been on anything for weeks, it'd
That's
be
very
enough
true.
of a high maybe to get her
Yeah,
off. I don't know.
definitely. Absolutely right. Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know, but
who
yeah, I
knows?
really she thought she was gonna flush him too, but
I was praying she would, but yeah, yeah. But I liked the fact also that that scene of her taking those drugs was juxtaposed with Cal being a completely drunk. To me, it was. it was so painful. It's very painful, and it shows how much of a reflection that Cal and Mary are of each other. They're both two people that are in so much pain that is very similar, and have no coping mechanisms, and are using drugs and alcohol as a way of trying desperately to relieve that pain, you know.
Yeah, and Mary especially is using the coping mechanism of relationships.
Sex.
Yeah. Whereas Cal doesn't really do that much. I mean, he
Yeah,
kind of like makes forays into that, but
yeah,
not like her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but the sadness and loneliness and pain in both Cal and Mary, I feel just very viscerally in their performances. It's just really powerful the way they're both doing portraying that, I think.
Yeah,
So,
we probably want to talk about this later, but the scene between Cal and Sarah towards the end
well,
conveyed a lot of that pain as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
So you were talking earlier, Nikki, about some research you had done regarding Jonestown.
Yeah, so I think the way that the show is eventually going to go is very dark, and I'll tell you why. Because Jim Jones did not start off as like a murderous cult leader. He
Hmm.
literally started off as somebody who was like a social justice guy.
Right.
In 1950s in Indiana, where segregation was still in force, his church was racially inclusive. He would do things like feed the homeless people, and the FBI thought he was a communist and all those kinds of things. So like he was sort of like a good guy, on the side of good against what the official government policies,
Hmm.
were at the time. Similar to Cal standing up to take in the refugees at a
Right.
time when that is a highly contentious issue in our society. Okay,
Hmm.
so they're kind of setting him up to be a little bit like that to begin with.
Hmm.
So Jim Jones, I'm not sure, I don't think he was an alcoholic, but he was on a combination of barbiturates and speed, which is very bad for
Yeah.
your psychological state,
Of
right?
course.
So I kind of feel like Cal's alcohol, like it wouldn't be normal for somebody to be on barbiturates and speed now. Like it's a lot more common, in today's society, I think, for people to be alcoholics. So
Hmm.
I think they're kind of starting off with him like having the substance abuse problem, kind of being a little bit similar to Jim Jones. Another really interesting similarity is the concept of the future,
Hmm.
because they have in the People's Temple that Jones ran, the way he was able to suck people in is because he taught that the prophecies in the Book of Revelation were the things that were going on in the world at that time. So we're talking about like the Cold War, the possibility of nuclear destruction.
Yeah.
So he was able to convince people by being like, "Hey, you already believe in the Bible. It says the world is going to end, and look how it seems like the world is going to end, right?"
Right.
So in Myerism, they don't have that same Christian mythology. But one thing that people seem to be attracted to the belief system, they already have this pre-existing belief that there may be some kind of ecological catastrophe or something like that
Correct. Yes.
that's going to happen, because they've talked about climate change in the past.
Yes.
So the future is very similar to the way that Jonestown had an apocalyptic vision. it
Right.
was it was not about like God coming back and and destroying the world or something like that.
Yeah.
It was about the things that human beings were doing that would bring that destruction,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so there's this group of people in the Meyerists that are, they say they're going to, after the future comes, they're going to
Live in the
live in
garden.
the garden, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
What is the garden? Because in Jonestown was their version of the garden.
Hmm.
They literally went to South America, right, which we already have another parallel with in
Yes.
this show,
Yeah.
and they created a agricultural commune that they thought of as a utopian society. So I'm kind of thinking that a lot of the sort of comparisons that were made to the Meyerists in Scientology at first is not correct.
Hmm.
Like they're way more like the early
Hmm.
People's Temple,
Hmm.
the way that things went. And Cal is super like that. And
Right.
another reason I think he's like that is because he's going to get away with killing Silas.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's just going
yeah.
to reinforce to him that he can do anything.
And they've mentioned several times that that compound, the Meyerist compound in upstate New York, is the garden. That is where the garden is going to be. That
Okay.
is what they're grooming it for. Because when Bill and Felicia, the first time that they show up because of what Cal did with Miranda Frank, the first thing they do is the air is so clear here. This is the place. This
Okay,
is the
right.
garden.
Okay.
So they're clearly grooming that expecting that that will be where the garden is.
That's also
Yeah.
another thing is that they didn't in Jonestown they didn't select Guyana
Mhm.
at first
Mhm.
either.
Mhm.
That was not the first place to go.
Right.
So I don't know if they're gonna stick to the same place in upstate New York, or they're gonna move everybody down to Peru,
Mhm.
or what. But just the parallels of how things, like, you could see that things could go.
There's something that was said in an interview. It was a live panel that was done with Jessica and Hugh and Michelle and Aaron. Was one of the very early live panels that they did for Hulu, and they were talking about how Jessica said she had material for like 20
20
seasons,
seasons,
and
yes.
and they mentioned how they could do like the Path LA, the Path Las Vegas, like CSI Miami and all this stuff. And they talked about how they could do one in New Orleans. And he was like, I want to do the one in New Orleans. Let's do that one.
Yeah, because
So they could move the compound
the
anywhere,
People's
really.
Temple moved like 3 times. It started in Indiana, and it went to
Yeah.
California, and then it went to Guyana. So
Guys, you need to do one in Santa Rosa. It's
wait,
very
no, stay
idyllic
in
here.
upstate New York so I can go visit.
There you go. Yeah,
That's where I am.
totally. They should
Yeah.
just go to all the places where the fans are.
I
Just,
actually
yeah.
know where they film it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I've it's in Nyack at this at the nun at a nun's retreat, right? A nun.
that's it. Yep.
Yeah, because I've been there before actually, because
Cool.
I used to live in upstate New York and it is gorgeous there. In fact, when I first started watching the show, I just got the worst case of homesickness because it was just I haven't been home in like seven or 8 years. So yeah, I really want to go back. But so that's really interesting.
Yeah,
I
and
like that.
especially if it's going to go on for this long,
Yeah.
like they can't just have the same sorts of things. Like it's going to
No,
have to transform,
I agree.
and Cal is going to get so much worse.
Yeah, he is.
Nobody
He's
starts off as like
hmm
a super bad guy. Like they
no.
think that the things that they're doing are right and moral in the moment. And
And that's the great thing about his character. Like I said, each week he peels a different layer off.
mhm.
And that's what makes it so seductive and addictive because you don't fall for someone like this, like that type of character that's immediately just a nasty bad guy. I mean, you
Yeah,
fall for him because there are things about him that are attractive and that are seductive. And then gradually over time, it's like the frog in the pot. You put him in a pot in cold water and gradually turn the heat up.
yeah,
He's not going to know that he's being boiled alive.
yeah. He's and the kind of. Should we talk about the the last scene with him and
Sure.
Sarah?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's pretty clear to everybody that he was about to tell her what he had done,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then changed his mind at the last minute because like his emotional state, like he was clearly
He was
completely
falling apart. Like he was,
broken.
yeah,
Yeah,
he was,
when he
yeah.
was crying on her like that.
I mean, I don't think that he turned it into what he turned it into by, turning it into Eddie, but I don't think he started that moment out planning on manipulating her.
No, not at all.
Because
Because
that was too raw and real.
yeah,
He
he was
was
really upset.
falling the hell apart.
Yeah. And when and his voice was different. Like it
Yeah.
was like a completely different voice. And
Yeah.
when he like looks up at her, like he just changes,
I think in that moment when he finally did look up at her and make eye contact, he realized he could not tell her.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So that's I think he's going to get away with killing Silas,
Hmm.
and that's the worst possible thing for him. Like I think that
Yes.
is like the murder of Silas is bad enough, but
I mean,
that's the
yeah,
moment where there's no turning back there. Yeah.
it's, yeah, ultimately for him, for the bigger picture for him as a human being, being able to get away with that without being punished or without it being recognized for his character and his soul, it's not good.
No. No. That's going to be the moment that we all look back on where it could have gone one way or the other and
Because now he's going to begin to see himself as invincible.
yep, exactly.
And it goes back to echoing Steve not accepting his mortality,
Yeah.
kind of. And if Cal starts to see himself as infallible, it's one
Yeah.
step away from seeing himself as immortal.
Yeah. And also will provide an excuse for all of his future actions.
Hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, talk about a powerful character and just, yeah, I mean, this is such rich material. Like, I can definitely see many, many seasons of rich material here, just because of how amazing this character is becoming and all of the possibilities that we have, for sure. Yeah, um, definitely. Pregnant Nicole, who is just about to give birth, and we have the scene where she's having a water birth. They have a little inflatable tub set up in the living room, and she's in labor, and Sarah is with her, and the whole family is there. And yeah, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
The when the baby is born with a covering over its head,
Hmm.
and so there's this great scene where where they bring where Sarah manages to bring the child back, which could obviously be interpreted as a miracle.
Hmm.
And the scene where Cal is in the room and it was a funny scene where he's standing there with his hands up and his hands are shaking because he's got the DTS, right?
Yeah,
Um, it just seems like that's like the
I
such a
know.
bizarre gesture
It
and
was very awkward for,
meaningless
yeah.
to
I think
do.
he was trying to pray, but it was awkward because of his condition, you know.
Yeah. So babies in many different mostly European mythology, babies born with the partial placental covering like that are almost universally regarded as somebody who's going to go on to do great things.
Hmm.
There's a number of people that are recorded throughout history that were born that way, including Napoleon,
Hmm.
lots of other people. Um, that it's also seen in some cultures as a harbinger that that person cannot drown, which is sort of interesting because it was a water birth.
Yeah, yeah, that
Um,
is interesting.
yeah, and then I had mentioned before in Romanian mythology that once that person dies, they would become a vampire. I don't think that
That's
means anything
cool.
in this context,
No, yeah.
but I think the water and the drowning and that person's going to be an important person.
Hmm.
I can see that being something that the show could play with.
Yeah, there was a moment I thought of when the baby stopped breathing and everyone was panicking. I saw Cal across the room, and I was personally just like, Cal, now's your chance for a miracle. Run across the room and put your hands on that baby, right? Rescue that baby. Here's your miracle. And
Yeah,
he was just standing there frozen, and I was just like, Cal, move your ass. But
yeah,
then Sarah, I truly believe they are really pushing to look like kind of Mary, Virgin Mary, like a just then she breathed life into this baby. Again, I think that mirroring what happened with her and Hawk when she was pregnant with Hawk and Hawk came back to life.
yeah,
I felt like, so Sarah's the miracle worker. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Which would
Which,
also kind of gel with what you were saying before about why, that um, she was presented with the idol,
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah,
interpretation of that.
she has been given. It's like she was given in a supernatural way some sort of power, or she already has that power, yet to be determined. But
Yeah, she has access to visions as well, like just like her husband does.
and so here's another question, another little bit of an angle on that next scene where Cal is with washing her hands in the next room. Is Cal jealous? He says he's washing her hands and he's like, "You were amazing in there," like inspirational and all that. And he tries to kiss her. He breaks down. He seems to be starting to tell her about Silas and then winds up telling her about Eddie. Could that be a distraction
A distraction
to
from.
distract her from this whole having designs on being a leader?
Do you think she has designs on being a leader?
I feel like she does.
Okay, because I feel like people are sort of putting that on her,
Okay,
but I don't know if it's necessarily manifested from
sure.
her intentional. You know,
Mhm.
she might adopt that. You know,
Mhm.
because people keep putting it on her, but I don't know if she really
Okay.
intended it necessarily. But yeah, jealousy and maybe he, oh, I don't know, like maybe wanted to hurt her because
Yeah.
that's the one thing that he could tell her that would hurt her the
Well,
most.
that's exactly what I was wondering, and this is simply just a crazy wild thought throwing out there. I was just wondering because I know that he would have liked to have had that moment.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
think that he regretted that he didn't have the impetus to move forward because it felt to me in that moment that he did want to move forward and get involved and put his hands on that baby. But I think that he was held back by the fact that he's in DTs, he's not spiritually pure right now, he's
Yeah.
uncertain with himself. But I feel like that moment for him was he felt compelled to move forward and take action and do something in that moment, but he knew that he wasn't in the right headspace or the right frame of mind or body to do it.
Yeah, and especially his insistence upon being
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You know,
Like, I need to be here. This is where I should be. Let me
I
pray.
yeah, I could
And
be
he's,
helpful here. So you're
yeah.
like, what are you gonna do?
Like,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly. This isn't even, like, what? Why are you here? But
Yeah,
he wanted to be there. And so that, yeah, so then maybe he was jealous and about the fact that she was right in there with her hands right in there and then subsequently saved this baby's life. Could have
yeah.
been, I don't
I
know.
think it was less about breaking them up and more about hurting her.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, Eddie and Hawk are at Coney Island, which I thought was really really cool. Those scenes and when they get the crab cakes and so forth, and
The clam rules.
clam rolls. Sorry, yes. Oh, I wanted to go back and talk about them at the homeless shelter because that was another really cool thing. I was really excited for Eddie because again, it's a reflection of the fact that we don't know very much about Eddie's past. This homeless guy walks up to him and he's like, "You better keep those shoes on your feet tonight, boy." And Eddie is just like, "You better step away. You better back off right now."
Yeah,
And I was just like, "Oh, Eddie. My God, I never knew he had it in him." I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know.
yeah.
Eddie just was all back the fuck up right now, man, and I was pretty excited about that.
Hmm.
But that was very sweet. And then the other thing that I thought was really key that happened in that homeless shelter was the little priest in the morning said the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi, and Eddie just started repeating it with him and praying it with him, and Hawk noticed this, and I it was a very touching moment for me because I thought this is Eddie's real faith. I was just like, obviously, this is something from his past. This is what he was before Myerism. But there was a certain amount of conviction, I think, that he was praying this prayer with when he was repeating the words that I haven't seen him do with Myerism at all, really, yet.
Yeah.
And it really touched me. I felt just like, this is his real faith, you know? Did you think the same
Yeah.
thing of that?
Yeah. I mean, I can. It's sort of like when you're raised in that, you almost just like it just comes out of you instinctively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, maybe, and maybe it was more just like the fact that he's with Hawk, and he's like actually having a real human life for once in some way,
Mm-hmm.
like that makes him more genuine
Mm-hmm.
when he's in that kind of a situation. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could be right, or it could be just that he's in a better situation.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that he's gonna want to go back to. I mean, he wants to be with his family, but God, that compound is just so um, restrictive in some ways.
Right.
And so then he's supposed to not come back unless he has faith, right? So that's
Right.
the deal. But it wasn't really specified as to what that is. So I feel like his faith is more about like his family and things rather than anything else.
I agree. What I find, yeah, what I find to be really sad though is that when he talks about Sarah, he talks about how she's the one that makes him feel that sort of passion and faith and belief, that seems to come from her, and when he looks into her eyes, that's what he sees, that's what he believes. Um, and then of course, uh, Hawk starts to break down and talk about Ashley. But there was something that I read that I wanted to on Tumblr that I wanted to read because I found it to be incredibly profound, maybe a bit harsh towards Sarah, but kind of profound and food for thought, perhaps. Obviously, just commentary and opinion, but um, it was a comment made by uh, Shadow Vizarfio on, and I'm probably slaughtering that, on Tumblr. And basically, she says, Hawk and Eddie have some deep talks on this walk, and they make for some wrenching moments that remind you just how amazing of an actor Aaron Paul is. When Hawk asks if Eddie stopped loving Sarah during his transgression, Eddie replies that the transgression had nothing to do with her, and you can see it in his face that he desperately wishes he could tell Hawk the truth about Allison. Later, when Hawk asks Eddie how he knew Sarah was the one, Eddie replies honestly, she can lift all of my doubts and pain just by looking at her. You could view that as romantic, that response as romantic, or you could view it as sad. Sarah does for Eddie what Meyerism is supposed to do for him, and right now his feelings about Meyerism are plagued with doubt. My thoughts are it's very sad that Eddie is in love with a woman who can't offer unconditional love. Sarah discarded her own sister and fears she will have to do the same with Hawk if she can't rein in his love for an ignorant systemite. Anyone willing to turn her back on a husband or child for daring to have a different belief system is not worthy, and I hope Eddie, Hawk, and Summer can either get Sarah to accept them as they are, or find the courage to be happy without such an oppressive, judgmental person in their lives. Now, that's
Wow.
really, really harsh about Sarah.
It's true though, because she's not gonna. Yeah, I
But,
mean, like the worst thing that could happen with Hawk is that he goes off with somebody else.
yeah,
The worst thing that could happen with Eddie is that he's not.
hmm,
She can forgive him for cheating.
yeah,
He goes through whatever their process, and
sure,
that's okay. But the one thing that she can't deal with is him
yeah.
having losing faith. Yeah, that's
Which
it's.
is really just so heartbreaking to me because I think clearly Eddie is very much in love with her, you know? And I honestly, it really is a big loss, I think it would be a huge loss to Sarah to lose him because of how much he loves her. And clearly he loves and is dedicated to his family. And it wouldn't be the first time that religion or religious belief system has done something like this, but it's very sad, you know. Um,
Yep. That's
yeah.
another interesting parallel to Jonestown because that's how things actually kind of came to a head there as people who were in custody battles.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just like you say, like religion being something that could be very divisive for a family in that
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
Yep.
And it's also interesting that when Cal tells Sarah about Eddie, he doesn't really tell her exactly what happened. He leaves that
Yeah.
cookie open. Kind of leaves that cookie open about whether he's talking about an extramarital affair. He doesn't tell her it's about the faith issue.
Yeah.
So he kind
I
of
think
gives
she
Eddie
kind
an
of
out
figures
there, but you know.
I think she figures it out and she's gonna call.
Well,
Yeah.
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 Once she calls that number and sees who it
Yeah.
is, she's
That's
gonna
right.
know.
I think she probably already knows it's something about that anyway, just because like
And I have a feeling now, what do you think when she finds out it's Allison? What do you think she's gonna think? I don't think she's gonna think he's banging her.
no, definitely not.
No.
No, that he's been having doubts all this time
Yes.
and he's been hiding it from her, and the only reason he's hiding it from her is because she knows that she'll reject him if he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, and and if she's going to move into this leadership position, she's going to be forced to choose between the two things, and it's going to be very bad.
Yeah, and I don't know how I don't know what she's gonna do because this is her entire life.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly.
How could she
So,
possibly make that decision? Yeah.
right.
And choose him. I mean, I don't know how she could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, it's not going to happen that way. So
No.
I don't know what he's going to have to do to stay around, or if he's going to go off
Mm-hmm.
on his own, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So with regards to just that Coney Island scene, then Hawk opens up to Eddie about his breakdown with Ashley, and Eddie encourages him to call her. And then while he's calling her, Eddie sees his brother. He starts to have this vision where he sees his brother, which um, I have to admit there was a second where I wondered if his brother was really alive because
I wondered, yeah, as well, because it
I
was so
started
real.
thinking maybe he's alive and the Meyerist kidnapped him and this is all just like a big, but no, because then we
Yeah.
see he starts dropping all his rocks on the beach and walking out into the ocean and following his brother out there. And then we
Yep.
see a second view from the side and there's no brother.
Right.
And then it just starts getting just so sad because I started thinking, is he gonna go kill himself? Because he just
Oh
keeps
God,
walking.
I didn't think it was that
Oh, really?
severe. But yeah,
Maybe.
so he maybe it just sort of like represents that he has to like come to terms with his past, or he's not going to be able to move forward.
That's a good, yeah.
And that's a very, very hard thing for him to have to deal with.
Hmm.
So, because he seems like he's kind of like forgotten about his whole past. Like he never took his kid to Coney Island or anywhere like that.
Right.
He just like seems to have disconnected himself from his entire life and put everything into his
Right.
family and the movement. And even though he doesn't even really believe in it.
Yeah. It was well, yeah, I mean he may not have been having ill intent as far as that goes to harm himself, but it was very sad as he was just dropping all his rocks and walking out following his brother and crying. It was incredible acting by Aaron Paul, very heartbreaking to watch. So then we had you want to go on and talk about Abe.
Yeah, he wasn't in it too much.
We just had that one really freaking awesome scene with dinner with
Yeah.
his boss, which I had to tweet about, and Rockman Dunbar really he liked and retweeted my comment because I was
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh,
so
that's
there,
funny.
like he's playing it. So I mean, I think that he's playing it very vague with everyone, where he's just kind of I think trying to make people wonder whose side is he on, is he really a Meyerist or? But what is your take on? I want to hear what you have to say about this. What is your take on where does he stand? Why is he so upset that Homeland Security is now taking this over, and why does he keep calling them murderers? But on the
Well, he
other
thinks
hand,
they
he's like, I looked
murdered.
into the light.
Yeah. Well, he thinks they murdered the one I
Jason
can't think.
Kemp.
Yeah, Jason Kemp. They think he murdered him. Like he seems to really believe that.
Hmm.
Like so, them take like he like I think he was being honest in the scene that if they take it away from them, that it's going to take a long time to even investigate or deal with the group at all,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're not going to be immediately held accountable for what he's fairly convinced is a murder.
Mm-hmm.
That's one level.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the other level is he's conflicted about what he feels about the group because he seemed to make a pretty honest connection with Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously under a lot of stress because of his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's just a lot going on. Like I think he definitely was not lying, or he was being honest when he was saying that he was mad about them dropping the murder investigation.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there's more to it than that because it seems like it really was an outsized reaction
Mm-hmm.
to the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to agree. I think that he feels like he's definitely onto something. And he wants to keep digging and he wants to keep finding out what's going on. I also felt like if he was taken off of the case, I think the reason he panicked and freaked out was that if he's taken off the case, he no longer has an excuse to be there
Right, that's true.
and move his family in. And that was why he was so upset.
Yeah.
That was what I thought.
Mhm.
But I loved the way he executed that scene, and everyone's like, "Just settle down and stop." Yeah, and I was just like, "No, fuck you!
Maybe
I fucking
you know
hate
what?
pot pie, you asshole."
I think you're right, but I don't even think he's admitting that to himself
No,
yet.
and I don't think so either.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. So for him to be like,
That would have been
so
my reaction because, like,
yeah,
I want to be a fucking Meyerist and move in, and you're taking me off this job? No.
yeah, exactly. But he doesn't want to even admit that to himself
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. That was why I was so gung ho about that scene, and that was my reaction because I was just like, "You're not taking me off this job, no!"
Yeah.
I want to be on this job and move in.
Deep
So,
cover. So deep that you actually start believing in the cult.
exactly. And if he, like, how could he legitimately even make the excuse to be there if he's not working on the case?
Well, he pretty much just committed career suicide, so
Well,
he
true.
can do whatever he
I
wants
guess now,
now.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him now. Because is he fired? I would assume he's got to be fired after he just told his boss to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's going to be kind of interesting to see where that winds up. So, yeah, I didn't actually really watch or pay attention to the sneak peek of next week's episode, but we only have two scenes left, or two episodes left. So I have a feeling shit's gonna really start hitting the fan here.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, any thoughts or predictions before we talk
The
about
only
our
thing
goodies?
I saw was Cal talking to Ashley.
Yes!
That's the only thing I've seen.
What is that about?
I don't know.
Why is he talking to Ashley?
Yeah.
Oh my
Maybe
god.
yeah, I don't know, in a way to keep Hawk there. Maybe that has something like he's trying to keep Hawk there so Sarah isn't freaking out and
That's it.
trying to, and the only way he's going to keep Hawk there is if Ashley, joins, or that's my only
Dang.
speculation
I
on that.
know. I can't wait to find out. My god. So, yeah, God, I can't wait to find out what's going to happen. Yeah. Two
Yeah.
episodes left.
Mm.
Um, finally, we have to talk about the awesome stuff that we got from Path because the Path on Hulu's media interface, social media interface people just fucking rock. So yes, we got these beautiful, beautiful Meyer eye bracelets
Yeah.
and T-shirts
Yeah, I'm not wearing my
and
today.
tote bags that's
Some
behind
bags.
me.
Yes.
Finally, we got official merchandise. I am so
Yeah.
excited.
It's so
Um,
cool that like the day that I got that message,
mhm.
I was so happy I couldn't even say why I was screaming.
Well, I
I couldn't
got
even
home. Okay, so
say
here's
what I
what
was
happened.
screaming about.
I've been unemployed for 7 months, which has been horrific. Wednesday, the 11th, was my first day at my new job. I got home, I checked my mailbox, and there's a box with the Meyer eye on it. And
Yeah.
I ran into my apartment screaming and jumping. I was like, I was losing my mind like a complete lunatic, screaming. I was so excited. It was the best day, first day of a new job, and I get a package from, the Path. Not to mention the fact that every single day there is a blue Prius at work in front of my job and at home in front of my apartment. So I don't know, but
Yeah, well, at least you didn't get contacted by Steve. So I'm not going to tell that story on the podcast, but
yes,
something
that's
very
great.
strange happened.
And next week, a week from today, a week from actually tomorrow, I will be in LA watching the
Oh,
season finale.
oh, that's
I'm
and are they
dying.
all going to be there?
Yes.
Oh, are they going to have? Yeah, I mean,
They're
you'll
going to have a
probably
Q&A, so yeah,
awesome.
it's supposed to start at like 6:30. They're going to screen the season finale and then have a Q&A afterwards, and I'm I don't I'm pray for me. That's all you can say. Pray for me.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
Have
it's
you met Hugh?
no.
I have. Yeah.
What do I do? What do I expect?
He's super nice. He like I have a complicated name, the way it's spelled,
Mhm.
and he was very careful to spell my name correctly when he signed the thing I had him sign.
Mhm.
And he took selfies with everybody, and he's not as outgoing as like say Maz or something like that, but he's just as nice,
Mhm.
and just as sweet and like accommodating to the fans, and has
Nice.
a really like calming presence
Mhm.
because I was perfectly calm doing all of this. Like in my
Right.
mind, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit,
Yeah.
but after, like, I pretty much almost fainted. I had a
Yeah.
hyperventilation
I've
moment and fainted
I've
almost.
met a lot of celebrities and people that I've admired before in my life, and I tend to be super calm and I'm more focused on making sure they're at ease when I first meet them, and
Hmm.
then afterwards I'm just like freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's very calm. He's
that's cool.
calming.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. My big challenge right now is I have trying to narrow down what I'm going to ask during the Q&A.
Oh, you
So,
also wear a flower crown.
I'm
Of
absolutely.
course. Yeah.
Yes. Because
Because
not
that's
only Fanable, and
yeah.
obviously he will be thrilled to see the flower crowns, but
Yes.
obviously they wear flower crowns in the past, so hey, it'll,
Yeah.
crossover. So,
Right. That also, yeah. So
yeah. So yeah, no, I'm gonna be completely decked out in, obviously my Path t-shirt,
mhm.
Path bag, necklace, bracelet, everything, flower crown. So yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm very excited for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah, so and there will be two podcasts.
try to get him to come on the podcast.
Oh God, yes. That would be nice. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Can
Well,
I
hey, I mean,
Skype with you?
he's done other interviews that were less stellar than what you would be capable of
Oh, no, yeah,
asking.
no, I think, yeah, exactly. Honestly,
So,
yeah, I've seen some real, just seen and read some terrible interviews with him.
yeah, including the
But
one where they spelled his name wrong, and we
oh God,
mercilessly
I saw
mocked
that
the.
the one that was Hugh Darcy. That poor
Yeah, and
guy.
me and several other people like commented on the video until the guy felt shamed to take it down and
I
change
know, and
it.
change it. I know, and you had to feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, I did
I
kind of feel.
apologized to him when he posted the new one. I was like, sorry if we were jerks, but we don't want you to spell his name
Get his
wrong.
fucking name right, you moron. I'm sorry.
That's what I
Anyway,
was.
no, no, no. No, no, no. But no, I think that an interview with Hugh with a legitimate fan that actually knows his entire body of work and can conduct like a intelligent, legitimate conversation with him, I feel like he would probably really enjoy that.
Yeah,
Just guessing,
definitely.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
Obviously something that's not just simply gushing and like, oh my god, it's fucking amazing, blah, blah, blah. I've not got much interest in doing something like that with him because that's a waste of his time. But something that's like a legitimately asking him interesting questions, I think he would be interested in participating in. So yeah. So yeah, I can definitely give that a shot. But anyway, if I even have a chance to just even talk to him, I would be a very, very happy girl. So we shall see what happens. Wish me luck, but
Yeah, good luck.
Episode 9 coming up soon, a few days. Thank you so much for being with me here today, Nikki. Do you have any final thoughts or comments?
No, just good luck with the next week. And
Yeah.
what were you going to say about the we're going to have an episode? What's the
Oh, I
future of
was
the
just going to
podcast?
comment that I'm going to probably do a special final podcast for the season talking about my experiences at Sinespia.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. That will be separate from a review of episode 10. Yeah.
Gotcha. All
Yeah.
right.
So, thank you so much again, and we will see you guys next week. Talk to you later. Bye. Live in the light.
All right. Cool.